Beneath the surface of every civilized face lies a silent war between who we are and who we pretend to be. A struggle as old as power itself. The world rewards the appearance of virtue, but it bows to the force of ruthlessness. We are told to be kind, patient, just. But in the hidden corridors of influence, these traits are only masks, worn by those who have learned to manipulate perception without ever surrendering control. This is not a lesson in morality. This is a revelation of strategy, a truth carved into history by Machiavelli himself, that to rule, you must appear good, even when your hands are soaked in calculation. And if you want to survive in a world built on illusions, then you must master the art of becoming the wolf, draped in the skin of a saint. It begins with image, what others see when they look at you. Because people do not judge you by your intentions, they judge you by the symbols you wear. A smile, a calm tone, an air of generosity. These are your armor. The moment you show your true hunger, your ambition without apology, they recoil. Society is built on mutual deception. We all pretend to be gentler than we are, but behind every polished persona, there's a mind calculating risks, weighing outcomes, planning the next quiet move in a long, invisible game. The key is to never let that calculation show. If you want to wield power and still be loved, you must master contradiction. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must know how to do evil, but do it in a way that preserves the illusion of virtue. And this is not hypocrisy, it is intelligence. Because people do not want truth. They want consistency with the story they already believe. They want a noble leader, a kind friend, a trustworthy partner. Not because these roles are always genuine, but because they are comforting. So, what does this mean for you? It means you must become fluent in both masks and motives. You must learn how to smile while setting traps, how to speak in praise while planning your advantage, how to give with one hand while the other tightens its grip. And no one must ever know. The most effective manipulation does not feel like manipulation. It feels like trust. Ruthlessness does not have to be loud. In fact, the most dangerous form of power is silent. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It moves through suggestion, implication, subtle pressure. It builds loyalty not through fear alone, but through admiration. Because when people admire you, they protect you. They defend your reputation. They excuse your actions. And they become complicit in your game, without even realizing they are part of it. You must understand something deep about human nature. People will forgive anything. Betrayal, cruelty, selfishness, if you frame it as necessity. If you do what must be done, and then wrap it in a story of sacrifice or nobility, they will not only accept it, they will applaud it. This is the power of narrative. The ability to take cold action and dress it in warmth, to cloak strategy and symbolism. Machiavelli didn't advocate evil for its own sake. He understood that in a world full of chaos, idealism is often a liability. And those who survive are those who bend morality to the reality of power. This does not mean abandoning your values. It means understanding that values must be wielded, not just believed. That goodness in the political and social arena is not just about action, it's about appearance. If you want to dismantle your enemy, do it with grace. If you need to remove an obstacle, do it with reason. And always give people a story they can believe in. Make them feel like your ruthlessness serves a higher good, that your ambition serves them, and they will follow you, even as you lead them down a path they don't fully understand. But there is a danger in this power, a temptation to become hollow, to lose the line between performance and identity. You must never forget who you are beneath the role. The mask is a tool, not a replacement for the soul. The world may demand performance, but your inner compass must remain intact. Because the moment you become nothing but the act, you are no longer in control. You are a puppet of your own creation. So, how do you stay anchored while navigating this Machiavellian balance? You study people deeply. You learn what they fear, what they want to believe, what makes them feel seen, and then you give it to them, but on your terms. You make them feel empowered while keeping the steering wheel in your hands. You become the kind of person who can inspire trust, not because you are harmless, but because you are precise, because your power is tempered by restraint, because your ruthlessness is reserved, intentional, and masked by grace. Look at history's most effective rulers, not the loudest, not the most brutal, but the ones who knew how to play both sides. They were generous in public, brutal in silence. They knew when to show mercy and when to erase threats with no hesitation. And most importantly, they knew how to tell a story in which they were always the hero, even when they were the villain in disguise. This is your task, to become unreadable in your intent, but undeniable in your presence, to be respected even when feared, to be trusted even when manipulating, and to move through the world with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what they are doing, even if no one else does. Control is not about domination, it's about direction, influence, momentum. You don't need to crush every opponent. Sometimes it's enough to outlast them, to outmaneuver them, to make them believe they've won until it's too late. The best victories are the ones no one sees coming, the ones that feel like fate rather than force. And to achieve this, you must be disciplined enough to stay invisible, until your impact is inevitable. This is not a game for the impulsive. It is a long war of subtleties, of reading rooms, adjusting tones, mirroring values. It's the ability to remain emotionally stable while others flinch, to withhold judgment, withhold reaction, until every piece is in place. It's patience disguised as charm, calculation disguised as compassion. And when the time comes, you strike not with anger, but with certainty. You do not act out of revenge, you act out of necessity. And that distinction is everything. The moment you begin to see life this way, not as a test of purity, but as a stage of influence, you will begin to move differently, speak differently, not out of deceit, but out of awareness. You will understand that people don't always want truth, they want meaning, and you will give them that meaning, while pursuing your vision, undeterred. This is what it means to appear virtuous while being ruthless, not to lie, but to lead people into believing what is useful for them to believe, to provide the comfort of morality while protecting the reality of strategy, to hold power in one hand and peace in the other, and to never let them see the difference. And yet, even as you perfect this dance of light and shadow, remember that every performance demands its rehearsal. Your greatest weapon is preparation, the quiet hours spent learning the desires that stir beneath polite conversation, the hidden resentments that flicker in casual glances. Observe not only what is said, but what is left unspoken. Feel the tension in the pauses. Learn the unguarded truth that emerges when people think no one is watching. Then, when the moment arrives, you will know exactly which chord to strike, how to twist a compliment into obligation, how to sow gratitude that blossoms into loyalty. When you speak of generosity, let it feel heartfelt. Make your gestures appear spontaneous, an unsolicited favor, a moment of empathy at exactly the right time. But let each act of kindness carry purpose. A favor granted today becomes a debt owed tomorrow. A comforting word earns a confidant's trust, and so a lock on their secrets. This is not cruelty, it is foresight. When the world forgets that every gift can be repaid, you reap the harvest of expectations planted in private. And when you must wield authority, do so with a smile. Let your directive sound like guidance, your correction like concern. Most will rise to the person they believe you to be. If you present yourself as calm and balanced, they will follow without fear. If, instead, you reveal frustration, they will flinch and doubt your competence. Control your emotions, for they are the windows through which others glimpse your true power. Never let your storms break in public. Hide your fury behind a serene mask, and let your silence carry the weight of thunder. In negotiations, listen more than you speak. Ask questions that reveal motivations. What matters most to you? How do you measure success? While they unravel their desires, you chart the landscape of their priorities. Then, you offer them what they crave at the price you dictate. True control is not taken. It is granted by someone who believes they have no better option. Give them the illusion of choice, and they will choose your terms every time. But beware. Even the sharpest blade will dull if left unsharpened. Cultivate your skill in isolation, away from the eyes of allies and rivals alike. Test your methods on trivial fronts, friendships, small projects, casual deals. Witness how subtle suggestions carry weight, how a well-timed compliment can redirect energy. Learn from every misstep, for a masked failure can teach more than a glaring victory. Adapt and refine until your strategy is as natural as the breath you draw. As you grow in mastery, you may feel the temptation to let your guard down, to show the world the brilliance you carry within. Resist it. Pride is the downfall of every Machiavellian master. The moment you believe you have transcended need for subterfuge, you expose yourself to the very vulnerabilities you have spent years concealing. Maintain the discipline of silence. Speak only when it serves your purpose. Let others advertise your achievements. A leader who broadcasts their own greatness invites envy. A leader whose greatness emerges quietly commands awe. There will be times when the weight of the performance will feel heavy, when the duality of mask and motive seems to erode your sense of self. In those moments, return to your core. Whatever principle, ambition, or vision sparked this path for you, let it be the anchor that holds the roles in place. You are not the mask, you are the mind behind it. Never confuse the artifice with the architect. And if the mask ever feels like a prison, remove it. Breathe freely in solitude. And then, when your spirit is replenished, don it once more with renewed intention. Because existence itself is a stage, and every human is an actor. To deny this is to be naive. The difference between those who dominate and those who are dominated lies in awareness. Those who believe in pure authenticity expose their intentions and are eaten alive by those who know better. Those who master the performance ascend, driven by the hidden engine of purpose. They steer the world's currents while others float, drifting on the tide of shared illusions. When you walk into a room, walk like someone who owns the space. Not because you believe you do, but because you have arranged the conditions so that people will assume you do. Let your posture speak of confidence. Let your eyes convey genuine interest in those around you, enough to make them feel special, but not so much they sense obsession. You are curious but unyielding. You give attention but never need it. This is magnetic. It pulls people into your orbit, then holds them there with the gravity of your composed presence. And when conflict emerges, because it always does, meet it with controlled intensity. Never let your opponent define the battlefield. You choose the timing, the terrain, and the terms. Craft every exchange so that, no matter the outcome, you gain something: a concession, information, the illusion of victory. Offer small sacrifices to secure larger gains. And if you must sacrifice reputation, do it strategically, when the world's gaze is elsewhere, when the rumor mill will be drowned out by louder news. A well-placed scandal can distract from real plans. Use it as a diversion, a smokescreen behind which you finish your true work. Yet, with every calculated move, never lose sight of empathy, not for their sake, but for yours. Empathy is a tool to map the emotional terrain of others. It is not weakness, it is intelligence. By understanding their fears, you know where to strike. By sensing their hopes, you find what binds them to you. And when they believe you share their pain or joy, they surrender to you the keys to their loyalty. There are those who will call this manipulation immoral. They cling to the illusion that pure intentions alone shape the world. But power is neutral. It is neither good nor evil. It is only the measure of one person's ability to shape events to their will. And in that shaping, morality is but one of many instruments. The virtuous blade glitters, but the hidden dagger yields results. So carry both in balance, the public face of virtue and the private will that spares nothing. Let the world see your generosity, your grace, your calm wisdom, but let them never glimpse the tight calculus that guides every step. And when your influence has grown, when you have become the invisible force that bends circumstances to your design, only then reveal a hint of the machinery beneath. A quiet demonstration of power, not to intimidate, but to remind. To remind them that even the gentlest touch can move mountains when wielded with intention. In the end, the true mark of mastery is the seamless unity of appearance and action. The world must witness only the effect, not the engine. They must feel the pull of your presence without ever knowing the strings you hold. When you achieve this, you become more than a leader. You become a force of nature, inscrutable yet undeniable. And in that space, the rules of morality, society, and chance bend at your will, serving the narrative you choose to write. So, step forward, masked in virtue and armed with ruthlessness. Embrace the duality within you. Let every gesture serve your grand design. And remember, the greatest power lies not in being known, but in remaining a mystery even as you command the stage of human hearts. And as the mystery deepens, so does your influence. For there is something sacred about the unknown. People fill in the blanks with their own longings, their own fears. When you withhold just enough, when your silence suggests depth rather than absence, you become a mirror, and they project onto you the qualities they desire most: wisdom, kindness, brilliance, strength. You become the vessel of their imagination, not because you told them who you are, but because you allowed them to believe what they needed to believe. That belief becomes loyalty. That loyalty becomes power, and that power becomes untouchable. But power demands a paradox. The more you possess it, the less you must seem to need it. Desperation stinks. Confidence is silent. Never chase recognition. Never beg to be seen. Instead, cultivate an air of quiet inevitability. Move like someone who knows their moment will come, because it already has in their mind. The world senses that certainty and, unsure of its source, begins to defer to it. They start to listen when you speak. They mimic your energy. They give you their attention without knowing why, and that is the first step toward control. True ruthlessness does not reveal itself in grand theatrical gestures. It reveals itself in your patience, in your refusal to react emotionally, in the cold, deliberate pause before you speak. That silence, that restraint, it's a signal. It tells the world, this person is not ruled by impulse. This person does not need chaos to feel power. This person is dangerous precisely because they are calm. And once they believe that about you, they begin to adjust themselves in your presence. They soften their criticisms. They lower their voice. They choose their words more carefully. The world bends, not through coercion, but through your unspoken command. And that command grows every time you resist the urge to explain yourself. Understand this. People fear what they don't fully understand. If they can't define you, they can't dismiss you. And if they can't dismiss you, they must respect you. So, be clear in your intention, but vague in your method. Let them see your destination, but never your map. The fewer details you offer, the more their imagination must fill the gap. An imagination, fueled by fear or admiration, will always create something larger than truth. This is the elegance of strategic ambiguity. It's not about lying. It's about letting the truth remain incomplete. You are not obligated to confess your entire process. You are not required to bare your soul to earn trust. What matters is not what you reveal, but how you frame what you choose to reveal. Control the frame, and you control the meaning. Control the meaning, and you control the memory. People remember feelings, not facts. They remember how you made them feel about themselves in your presence. If you can elevate their self-worth while remaining slightly beyond their reach, they will chase you. They will try to earn more of your approval. And in trying to earn you, they begin to hand you more and more influence over their choices. Not through pressure, but through aspiration. You become not just a person, but an idea, an ideal. But even ideals must protect themselves, and that means knowing when to vanish. Power is not sustainable when it becomes too familiar. Familiarity breeds contempt, or worse, disillusionment. So practice the art of absence. Withdraw at the height of your influence. Leave a taste of something unfinished. Let your absence create hunger. Let the silence after you leave echo louder than your words ever could. That echo is power. It reminds them of your impact, sharpens your value and memory, and prepares the ground for your return. And when you do return transformed. Never show up the same way twice. Evolution is essential to mystique. Let them believe they know you, then show them something new. A deeper insight, a sharper boundary, a darker clarity. People respect those who grow beyond their assumptions. It forces them to reassess their position around you, to realign their expectations. And that realignment gives you more space to maneuver, more distance to operate freely. Distance is not detachment. It is the architecture of power, because those closest to you are also the ones most capable of undermining you. Not all at once, but gradually. Through familiarity, through comfort, through slow erosion of the persona you've crafted. So, maintain layers, circles within circles. Let the outer layers adore your image. Let the inner layers serve your strategy. And reserve the center, the absolute core, for no one but yourself. That sacred core is where your true motives live, where the ruthless part of you sharpens the blade, while the virtuous part keeps it sheathed. Every action you take must serve this duality. When you uplift others, you do so not just out of kindness, but to position yourself as their foundation. When you forgive, it is not out of weakness, but to remind them that their fate rests in your hands. When you love strategically, not to exploit, but to ensure that even in affection, you are never unguarded. To appear virtuous while being ruthless is to live in a constant state of poised contradiction. But it is from that tension that greatness is born. And make no mistake, greatness is not an accident. It is engineered, brick by brick, layer by layer, not with explosive moments, but with invisible pressure applied consistently over time. The conversations no one noticed, the introductions that felt organic, the support that seemed spontaneous. Behind every effortless appearance is a structure of deliberate design. If you study that structure, if you learn how to build it in silence, you become unstoppable. You become the person they all speak of, but no one fully understands. The one whose name is spoken with reverence, whose presence silences a room, not because you demanded it, but because you mastered the rhythm of perception. You tuned yourself to the frequencies of trust and fear, loyalty and doubt, and you learned to conduct those frequencies like music. That is not manipulation, that is mastery. And in that mastery there will come a moment, perhaps when you are alone, watching the quiet unfold around you, when you will feel the weight of all you've constructed, the masks, the movements, the strategic silence, and you will wonder, was it worth it? And the answer is, it depends on whether you built this empire to run from who you are or to rise into who you were meant to become. If your ruthlessness has been a shield for your wounds, you will crumble. But if it has been a sword for your vision, you will rise. Because in the end, all of this, all the tactics, the framing, the whispers, and the smiles, they are not about control for its own sake. They are about creating a life where you are no longer subject to the mercy of others, where you are the author, where you are no longer reactive, but deliberate. And that, perhaps, is the most virtuous act of all. To live deliberately, to move through the world like a sculptor, shaping not just stone, but the minds and movements of those around you. This is not about domination. It's not about cruelty or arrogance or ego. It's about precision. It's about seeing life for what it really is. Not a fair game, not a meritocracy, not a playground of shared values, but a battleground of hidden motives, veiled intentions, and unspoken struggles. And in that battlefield, to survive is not enough. You must master it, or you become mastered by it. You must become the architect of perception. Because perception is reality in the eyes of the masses. The one who shapes the narrative doesn't need to shout. They whisper in the right ears, and the world adjusts itself accordingly. The one who appears noble can commit unspeakable acts in secret and be praised for it. The one who appears cold, even if righteous, will be exiled, ignored, forgotten. The truth is not what matters. What matters is the version of truth people choose to believe. And if you control the lens through which they see, you control the world they live in. This is not cynicism. This is clarity. The world is not waiting for you to prove your goodness. It is waiting to be convinced of your value. So give them value, but give it with design. Give them inspiration, wisdom, strength, comfort, yes. But give it as a ruler, not a servant. Give it from a position of power, not desperation. Let your light shine, but never without a shadow. Let them feel your warmth, but never forget that warmth too can burn. People will try to reduce you, label you, define you. They'll say you're too calculated, too ambitious, too detached. Let them. Because those who criticize your strategy are often those who fear its effectiveness. Let them talk. Let them judge. Just never let them stop you. And never, never let them know how much further ahead you are. Because the moment they believe they understand your game, they will try to disrupt it. But if you're always evolving, if your actions are always one step deeper, one layer removed, one motive more refined, they will never catch up. They will never see you coming. And when your influence surrounds them, when your presence has become their environment, they won't even know how it happened. They'll call it charisma, luck, fate. But you'll know the truth. You built it. With every silent calculation, with every withheld word, with every move disguised as virtue. You built it. And that empire of influence, that kingdom of quiet control, is not just a fortress, it is a throne. And if you've done it right, they will offer it to you willingly. Not because you forced them, not because you begged, but because you became inevitable, because you appeared virtuous while being ruthless, because you made them believe, because you understood the truth Machiavelli whispered to the few who could hear it. It is not enough to be good. You must appear good. And it is not enough to wield power. You must make them love the hand that holds the sword. This is the way, to rise, not as a tyrant, but as a myth, not as a brute, but as a legend, not by force, but by elegance, by subtlety, by grace, by patience, by the quiet ruthlessness of a mind sharpened to a blade. So now, the question remains, will you wear the mask or be worn by it? Will you play the game or be played? Will you build the illusion or live inside someone else's? The choice is yours, but understand, those who hesitate, those who cling to the purity of ideals without power to protect them, they are the first to be broken. They are remembered not for their goodness, but for their silence. Their dreams trampled beneath the boots of those who were willing to play the darker game. So play it with intelligence, with grace, with fire in your spirit and ice in your veins. Let your heart remain true, but let your hands stay steady. Move through the world like smoke and iron, seen and unseen, soft and unstoppable. And when they ask how you rose, how you endured, how you shaped the world in your image, say nothing. Let them wonder, let them guess, let the mystery speak louder than any confession ever could. Because by then, they'll already be kneeling, and they won't even know why.